My name is Claudia Webbe, and it's a huge honour to be with you today to mark the 40th anniversary of the storming of the Golden Temple by Indian troops, the genocide which caused the death of thousands and hundreds of Sikhs and horrified the wider community. We must remember as well what followed that atrocity, the massacre of thousands of innocent Sikhs by mobs, and to mourn their loss and the lack of justice for their murder. It took 34 years for the first person to be convicted over the genocide. 34 years. And hardly any others have even been put on trial. A situation that is simply not good enough and must change. And the passing of time is no excuse. Those who perpetrated or planned the atrocity must be brought to account for their crimes. That undoubtedly includes many senior figures in the government at the time, and the role of the institutional anti-Sikh racism at the highest levels, as the powerful sought to stamp out the Sikhs' passion for self-determination, autonomy and independence. In the 2006 report, 20 years of impunity, survivors and eyewitnesses spoke of watching police and government officials participating in that violence. We cannot ignore this. They spoke of the murder, sexual violence, mutilation they witnessed, but also they spoke of families of other faiths who hid their Sikh neighbours in solidarity from the mobs. The Indian government whipped up the genocide because it wanted to suppress, to eradicate the Sikhs' desire for self-determination and to maintain its iron grip on Punjab. But as we see so too often, the attempt to violently suppress the human spirit only strengthens it, and trying to stamp out the desire for freedom only fans the flame higher. The independence movement, which had been growing for decades, grew stronger. Yes, it grew stronger still, and continues to this day as an expression of the untiring will of Sikhs. That will is worldwide. It's about self-determination in their homeland. It's time we had a public, judge-led inquiry into the involvement of the UK government. The truth should no longer be hidden. We must never forget. It's not wrong to call for a Palestine, but the repression of 1984 was not a one-off. Human Rights Watch has said that the Indian forces and police use human rights violations as a weapon against Sikhs, and that the 21st century, thousands have been murdered in staged shootouts and buried without identification and with no criminal investigation. In the last year alone, we have seen the Indian government accused of exporting terror in the murder of Hardeep Singh Niggar in Canada, the attempted murder contract against Gurbatwant Singh Panam in the US, the sudden death of Avtar Singh Kanda here in the UK after a series of threats by Indian police, and the revelation of a list of more than 20 Sikhs worldwide that the Canadian government said was a hit list of activists targeted for assassination. And of course, as we here mark the genocide and the atrocities against Sikhs in Amritsar and around India, our minds must also turn to the genocide being inflicted as we speak on the people of Palestine in Gaza and the war crimes in the West Bank. Like the Sikhs in 1984 and since, the people of Gaza are facing a murderous regime determined to keep their necks beneath the boot and under the rubble, or even to eradicate them altogether and face mass murder at the hands of an Israeli government with deep contempt for the community of nations and for international law and for basic humanity, while too many Western governments sit on their hands and look the other way. Tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians have already been murdered and maimed, and more are added every day. And their homes, schools, hospitals have been destroyed, as mothers wail in anguish for their children and orphans for their parents. We stand, of course, with them in solidarity, and we must demand an end to the war crimes. Their history is your history. You know the suffering they're facing. Nelson Mandela said that the world should help the Sikhs. The world should help the Sikhs in their struggle for freedom, because he said they are a great people, and he was right. And I'm proud to stand with you in solidarity today, to pay tribute to the indomitable spirit, which is the Sikh spirit, and to all of every faith or none who stand up and do the right thing in the face of violence, threats and oppression, to demand justice for the crimes committed, to demand justice against the genocide, to demand justice against the oppressors, to honour the fallen, and to call for freedom for Sikhs, for Palestinians,